Greetings, everyone. Greetings, and welcome to Mega Life 21 Mayhem. I am your host, James P. Madonna of Mega Life 21, the hardest hitting internet talk radio station on the planet. And welcome to Honest Craft Beer Reviews. This is Volume 8, believe it or not, of Honest Craft Beer Reviews. And I am here with my good friend and guest and proud member of Honest Craft Beer Reviews, the one and only Tom, the Beer Whisperer. And today he is going to discuss, right at the beginning, he's going to tell you people out there, he's going to teach you people the difference, in his own words, the difference between Irish whiskey and Scotch whiskey. Now, I never knew this, but Tom's going to mention it again to the public out there because he taught me something that I didn't know. He generally is a connoisseur on India Pale Ale. Is that correct, John? I'm sorry. Is that correct, Tom?
Well, I won't call myself a connoisseur or an expert, but I do like the India Pale Ale.
IPA, India Pale Ale, which has a very fascinating story in itself, Tom. Now, I want to say first, the individuals, the gentlemen, and I use that term loosely, that kicked our beloved John Starodumsky and our beloved Red Rooster out of that vile other beer group, Beer Drinkers United, I believe that's what it's called, Beer Drinkers United. Their names are, and these are the beer whores that take free cases of beer, and because they get freebies, they turn around and they give phony, dishonest reviews on those beers just because they get it for free. Yes, they are beer whores, and they not only kicked out our beloved John Starodumsky, the founder of Honest Craft Beer Review, but they kicked out Red Rooster for being honest and shooting straight from the hip, and they also removed and terminated everybody that Red Rooster and John Starodumsky added. Shame on you. They forgot to kick me out. I resigned on my own, and I left a very big, juicy rebuttal telling them off good, and they didn't appreciate that. So I beat them to the punch. I resigned on my own. But shame on you, and their names are Ringcock, Pooper, and Shitman. Those are the names of the individuals that started trouble with my friends and the founder of Honest Craft Beer Reviews, Mr. John Starodumsky, and Mr. Red Rooster, okay, for being honest, trying to take away their First Amendment rights. Now, Tom the Beer Whisperer, please tell the public the story which explains the difference between Irish whiskey and Scotch whiskey.
Well, I got right here some Powers Irish whiskey. This runs more or less about 20 a bottle in most places. The large differences between Scotch and Irish are most Irish whiskeys are distilled 3 times, while most Scotches are only distilled twice. During Prohibition, a lot of whiskey makers shut down. Scotch producers kind of foresee that at some point America was going to repeal Prohibition. So they were ready with production when Prohibition was repealed. Scotch flooded. So that's why during the 40s, 50s, Scotch was big amongst upwardly mobile Americans at the time. The middle and the burgeoning upper middle class. Irish whiskey producers were not ready. And that's why for a long time, you didn't hear about Irish whiskey until, it made a comeback. And for the longest time, you only heard about 1, maybe 2 brands. And now you're starting to see a flood of different Irish whiskeys. Again, the big difference is that most Irish whiskeys are distilled 3 times, while most Scotches are only distilled twice. Scotch whiskey uses peat fires to roast their malts, while Irish whiskey doesn't. So what you have is a distinct difference. Scotch whiskeys have that smoky flavor, while Irish whiskey is known to be smooth and mellow. So it depends on what you want in a whiskey, but I'm a real fan of the Irish because it's a very smooth, mellow, and a very sweet flavor.
I noticed that. I know, even though people are always raving about the Chivas Regal and Johnny Walker Blue or Black, Red, whatever Johnny Walker they like, they're always raving about how long it's aged, the Scotch whiskey, and how great it tastes. But I always preferred, excuse me, I always preferred the Irish whiskey, like your Bushmills and your Jamesons.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the reason why I prefer it. You just explained why, you know. So that's basically. What do you have there now in that glass?
I'm drinking the Powers. It's Powers Gold Label. It's triple distilled by John Powers and Son in Ireland. Yep, here's the bottle for you. Like I said, it's not an expensive whiskey. It's not the single malt. The single malt versions are very good. This is just the regular whiskey. It generally runs about $20 a bottle. So it's very smooth and sweet.
Yeah, that's the nature of the Irish whiskeys.
You know? And I drink mine neat.
Yeah, or you know, if it happens to be hot, you could drink it on the rocks. You know, like when I have it, I get it with. I don't like mixed drinks because I don't want sugar in my drinks, so I get it on the rocks, and with a wedge of lime or lemon. Well, lime is good. A wedge of lime, squozen into it. Is that a word? Squozen?
Squeeze? How about squeezed?
Squeeze. That sounds good. Squeezed into it, and then the wedge is, you know, thrown in there. I drink rum the same way. Coconut rum, Malibu, or I like the dark rums. You know, the real dark navy rums. You know, there's one called Cruzan Black from the Virgin Islands, from St. Thomas, and they make a rum that is pretty heavy duty. It's actually stronger and has more of a molasses aroma and taste than even Bacardi Black. It's hard to find, but it's one of the best rums I've ever had. Cruzan from the Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, I believe. Yes, Cruzan, and Appleton is a good rum from Jamaica. Myers Dark. And Mount Gay Barbados rum is good. 10 cane rum from Trinidad is excellent, but it's a white rum. And I also like the Brugal from the Dominican Republic. Now, when I was in Venezuela, I brought back two kinds of rums. Of course, the rum there was $2 a bottle, an excellent price for high quality rum. I brought back Cacique, which had a picture of a Native American in the front, and I had one of the most popular rums on the Caribbean side of South America, the north, and that is Pampero. Pampero was outstanding, a Venezuelan rum, and that was about $2 a bottle. That was before Hugo Chavez took over. I was in Margarita Island, Venezuela, and that's when I brought it back. Tequila, I realize a lot of people love it. I could never get into the flavor of tequila. Vodka, it's kind of boring. I got to be honest with you. You know, vodka is a little boring for me. But rum and whiskey is where it's at. I don't like the corn whiskey from the United States. It's known as, what is it, Bourbon? Bourbon?
Bourbon, not a bourbon fan?
Maybe Jim Beam. I like Jim Beam. Jim Beam is good. Some people like Jack Daniels. There's Old Granddad, right? Wild Turkey. But I like Jim Beam. It's not bad. But
There's a lot of small batches that are real popular right now. A lot of small batch whiskeys that are real popular, and I do like a good bourbon. Is now the difference between bourbon is very smoky. Not as it's aged in charred barrels, so it's very smoky. And going back to Irish whiskey, most Irish whiskeys are aged in used bourbon barrels.
Oh, really? Because from
Yeah.
what I understand, most wooden barrels, most of them, a lot of them are oak, right? Most wooden barrels used in fermenting alcoholic beverages, some of them are hundreds of years old. Some of them just actually get rented out to other companies. I hear where they clean them periodically, and they get better with age.
Yeah, they do that. That is true. Yeah, like I said, Irish whiskeys utilize bourbon barrels, and that helps to develop that flavor and that sweetness of the Irish whiskey.
Yeah. Well, rum is distilled in the same way in the large oak barrels. So is fine wine. There's something in the wood. It's the wood that makes it good. Like we were talking about barbecue the other day. It's the same thing applies to spirits, fermenting these beverages. So it always gets back to an aged wooden barrel, and Mother Nature, does her thing again and wins out, and you can't replace Mother Nature. I don't care if you talk about stainless steel tanks where you make your wine or whatever. There's nothing like real wood, and as they get older, they get better, and just like the fermentation, the aging of the liquor. Is there anything you want to say? Anything else you want to say about hard liquor? Like brandy, or you ever have Applejack? Are you into brandies of any kind?
No, not as much. Brandy, of course, are fermented grapes. But no, I'm not as big a brandy fan. For me, it's all about the Irish whiskey and bourbon. Those are the two that I like the most.
Irish whiskey and bourbon. Very good. Of course, there are many liqueurs and whatever, cordials. I'm not into the sweet drinks. I mean,
no, in fact, I'm not a real big cocktail guy as a whole. I'm not a fan of the new trend of putting 100 different alcohols into a drink or 100 different ingredients. To try to disguise the alcohol to make it some fruity flavor. I don't believe in that at all. If I'm drinking a cocktail, I'm kind of old school. I like an old school Manhattan.
Okay. I like refreshing frozen drinks like your margaritas and your Mai Tais and the Polynesian drinks with the little umbrella sticking out of it. I had one called the Navy Grog. It knocked me on my ass. It was made with many different rums, including Bacardi 151 proof. And I do like the frozen margaritas. Some of the places that have a happy hour in New Jersey, you can get a frozen margarita for $2 each, and they're very refreshing. Now you have the instant frozen drink, where you buy from the liquor store. You get the mix already blended, and all you do is add the liquor and then put it in the freezer. You put it in the freezer, and it becomes a frozen drink. Excellent for the summer. You can buy them now at the liquor stores. Of course, alcohol will not allow it to freeze completely, so it becomes a frozen drink. Yeah. Now, let me know when you're ready to start your first beer.
I'm ready right now.
Okay, now, Tom, the beer whisperer, what beer do you have now? This is your first beer on this show to critique.
I have a Tallgrass Oasis. The top it says bold beer, and the side says aggressively hopped and mightily malted for a pint.
Aggressively hopped and what malt? Mightily
malted.
Mightily malted.
I could have got into the the craft beer can scene kicking and screaming. But I've become a fan, reluctantly, of the pint can because I do like the idea of pouring myself my own pint at home rather than a 12-ounce can. I do like the full pint can. I've become a fan.
I like
I wish I could afford it better.
I like the full pint myself. I don't like no little namby-pamby portions. You know, like those jabronis on the Food Channel. You know, they're all about tiny portions. We're here about, you know, really living with gusto. We want real portions. Now,
This beer is, to give you the particulars, it is 7.2%. And I should have done my research before I started with you, but I believe it's 73 IBUs.
okay.
And their website calls it, they don't call it an IPA per se, they call it an ESB-ish, a double ESB-ish, IPA-ish type of beer. It's not quite big enough to be a double IPA, but it's bigger than most regular IPAs. I mean, 72, 73. Those are the numbers of what they call a West Coast IPA out there. This is really a big, flavorful beer, and I like it because it's from Tallgrass Brewery out of Manhattan, Kansas. Not exactly local. It's about 3.5 hours from here, but I think it's close enough where I call it local. They're one of those small, I think, we can breweries that started small with one flavor and have gradually just kind of gotten bigger and bigger every year. And this is a really tasty beer.
Let's get a close-up of that can, sir. That beer right there. Let's get a nice close-up. We got the guy dressed sort of like the Monopoly man with the top hat, big smile on his face. There you go. Excellent excellent plug for the company. And let me see the color of that beer. I like it looked pretty good. That looks like
a nice kind of, I don't know what would you call that. I don't know, is that copperish brown? I'm a bit colorblind, so I really
it's like a caramel.
There you go.
A caramel brownish, a caramel medium brownish color. If you want to call it copper, you can call it copper. You know, it's like somebody showing me fuchsia and magenta pink. Sometimes I can't even tell the difference.
I can see primary colors, but I can't differentiate shades.
Yeah, I mean, some things are obvious. If somebody shows you forest green and then they show you chartreuse, you know, like the crossing guards and the cones on the road, that's obvious. But but anything, you know, when I choose colors for designing websites, I often have difficulty distinguishing the many different shades. But anyway, that looks like a nice color. Would you consider that a good beer for summer?
It is. You know, I didn't used to think of an IPA, this type of beer, as a summer beer. You used to think of, you know, the lighter lagers or a pilsner or wheat beers are typically known as summer beers, or, you know, what's been popping up in the craft beer world lately is called summer lagers, which are just lightly malted. Some of them have add you know, spices or, you know, orange peel or something to them. But I've become a fan of the IPA in the summer because of I think that the hot bitterness at the end makes it a refreshing ale. I really do, and this is big. So it's not one you want to drink a whole lot of, but it is a very, very refreshing beer.
It's very good for what ails you, too. No pun intended.
Because it's an ale.
No pun intended. Now, didn't they write a song about that? It's like it was an old song. Summer beer makes me feel fine. Something about IPA on my mind. The smell of IPA.
Wheels and Cops, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, summer beer makes me feel fine. Think of the IPA on my mind. The smell of IPA on my mind.
Yeah.
Summer beer makes me feel fine. There you go. There's nothing better than a good Irish whiskey chased down with a good IPA. IPA. You want to sing a little of Summer Beer Makes Me Feel Fine, or are you going to pass?
No, I'm going to dance. I'll let you sing.
All right. Okay, now just enjoy your IPA. Now, do you know? I know John Starodumsky explained, and so did Red Rooster. The both of them explained the story of how IPA came about, which is an interesting story. Are you familiar with that story?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Well, since you critique IPA so much, let's hear the IPA story from Tom, the beer whisperer. That is India Pale Ale.
The dates in particular, I don't know off the top of my head, but basically, hops are a natural preservative. So way back when, when we didn't have preservatives, to make beers last a long voyage, they added an extensive amount of hops to make them last from point A to point B, wherever that may be, because some of these voyages took quite a long time. But that is actually a different beer than what we're drinking as an IPA today. But that was the incarnation of the IPA, was an incredible amount of hops added to a beer. They took basically their pale ale, added a whole load of hops so it could survive the trip. Basically, though, the longer the trip went, the more the malt will eventually develop and take over the beer. But and what with a lot of American craft beers, even though hops is a preservative made to make a beer last, they'll tell you drink it fresh. Well, here's why. It's not that your beer is going to go bad, is that the way they want it to taste is going to change after that particular point. Because sooner or later that malt is going to come up. And that was the intention of the original IPA, nice one, was that it would eventually balance out the longer it sat in the bottle. It wouldn't be quite as hoppy, wouldn't be quite as bitter. So if you take an IPA and let it sit a while, in the back of your fridge or down in your cellar for a couple of years, it's not going to go bad. And when they say drink it fresh, it's not going to go bad on you, but it is going to change character.
Excellent story from the one and only Tom, the beer whisperer. I just want to mention, talk a little bit about the comments that we found underneath our last show, which we did very recently. I think it was last night, right? And
we talk a lot.
Yeah, I think it was last night. But anyway, some people have mentioned the reason why they prefer using words like craft. I mean, I can understand the word microbrew because, of course, some microbrews became too large to be considered microbrew.
Yeah.
And it's all about quality. So the term craft beer is a way of differentiating quality from garbage or from from mass-produced, commercially, nationally advertised junk beers. Like your Budweisers and your Coors Lights and Miller, even though the CEOs of those companies would probably get pissed by me saying this, but the reality is mass-produced beers with possibly chemical preservatives and there's no close attention to quality, and they cut corners, and it's all about mass production and profit, and they're weak. They don't have the full-bodied flavor that your craft beers have. They lack a lot of things that your craft beers have.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Of course, I'm already on record, so but I went on and on about how I didn't like the term craft. And then folks have pointed out that, there needs to be a term. I do agree. It's not so much the word that I don't like. It's how some people can use it. Sometimes it's not just what you say, it's how you say it, it's your tone of voice, Sometimes, you know what I mean? I mean, I can say, hey, James, you old SOB, and that's fine. Or I can say, James, you SOB, and that's the difference. The term craft is is fine. It's rather benign. This is a craft beer.
Well,
This is a craft beer.
Yeah,
this is a well-crafted beer.
Right.
This is a well-crafted beer. But I don't like people that use it like this is a crap. You know what I'm saying?
Like
the difference in the tone of voice. That's basically the point I was trying to make.
Like these snobbish beer geeks that bring pretension, like they do in everything in their life, bring pretension into craft beer and show off and brag about how much money they spend on absolutely everything, including their craft beer and their designer clothes and their Ferraris or whatever they're driving, BMWs, and usually like the uppies like to do that. And
well, I'm not a member of this group anymore, but I was once a member of a beer group, and I left it because they just drove me nuts. But there was one particular person on there who kept bragging like about once a week about how extensive his beer cellar had become. Oh, I added X amount of beers this week, or I added X amount, like it was wine. I took a little exception to that. I mean, because there's guys like that that are making the price of beer go, it's making it all go up. This is a guy who just found beer recently, and when it becomes not hip anymore with that particular group, he's going to move on, but the price is going to stay up. And that was the point I was trying to make, that's why I don't like the term, but I understand why most people use it. And I even say it from time to time, I'm a craft beer drinker, but I don't say I'm a craft.
Well, I know the personality of individuals like that. I once worked with a kid who his father had big bucks, and the kid had like 3 brand new Corvette Stingrays, all covered, and in the garage. And he used to tell, when he used to talk to girls, the first thing out of his mouth was his Corvettes. But he was a short little bit of a guy, diminutive, and he was probably insecure, so he had to use his cars and his money. And this is the type of personality that you get with these people. They're insecure, so they need an extension of their manhood to use their money and how much they spend on everything to make themselves look better. It's like the difference, what we were talking about before today, it's like the difference between somebody saying, I had a really great mug of coffee, and this is the coffee I had, compared to some snob saying, oh, I went to this very posh, exclusive cafe, and I had my a very special cappuccino or cafe latte. It's the same mentality.
Yeah,
they bring pretension. They bring pretension.
And it's good in some way because it's bringing attention to beer. It's putting it out there. It's making it important. But it's also distorting the reality, and that's kind of my issue too. I mean, I say all the time in my videos that I'm a working class guy, and it's a working class drink. I'd like it to stay that way. I like the beer quality to remain high. I like it to even get better. But I don't think we have to, I don't think we have to become something we're not.
Exactly. A lot of people live behind facades. Can
I share a little story with you real quick?
Sure.
I'm thinking of it. I have a glass here, and you can't see it because I can't tip it upside down. I'll get it as close to you as I can, but I don't think you can read underneath it. There's some words, or there's a word there. I don't know if you can read it or not, but it says Winston. Winston cigarettes, actually, is what it is.
Okay.
And not too long ago, I opened up a box of stuff that used to be my dad's, who passed away a few years ago. And he was born in 1922. Was a World War II and Korean War veteran. Also had a Bronze Star for World War II. But anyway, this was an old mug that he had from about somewhere in the mid-'60s. The exact year, I don't know. But this is a beer mug that has a cigarette name under there, so I know it was pre-1970. And if you notice, when I poured this beer into her, it took the whole beer. So this is probably an 18 to 20 ounce mug. And if you think about what the beer scene was like in the 60s, that's very odd. My dad owned bars in the 60s. Am I losing you again?
No, I hear you.
My dad owned bars in the 60s. A typical beer pour, a draft, was 10 ounces. A pint pour was unheard of back then. So the fact that this glass is very odd for the day. So that's kind of what I wanted to point out. I recently found this, so I use it all the time now. But again, it says Winston, so it was a promotional note from the cigarette company, I can imagine, because he smoked a great load of Winstons back in the day. The beer whisperer doesn't smoke and has never smoked, actually.
Oh, it's an interesting mug. I don't know if you've seen the video, but John Starodumsky has a fabulous beer glass collection that he's proud of. He's got a very, very huge, extensive, fine collection of beer glasses, and
I don't have quite as many as John, but I have a lot more than my wife would like me to have.
Well, he tells me that his wife is not too happy about his huge collection either.
I started collecting just pints, and then I grabbed a few steins, and now I have all sorts of glasses. From over the years. We've been married almost 20 years, so I started collecting them just before we got married, and I grabbed a few more ever since, and now I've got cabinets just full of glasses where she'd rather have things that are important rather than my beer glasses. But,
well, things that are important, it's relative, to different people. I've had my mother, when I was a kid, nag me to get rid of my stacks and stacks of baseball cards because they were collecting dust. And meanwhile, she had nothing but junk in her drawers, and like a fool, I get rid of the baseball cards when I was a little kid, and lo and behold, if I had those baseball cards today,
I agree.
They'd be worth a lot, because I had rookie cards from all the stars that later became Hall of Famers, from the 60s and 70s. I had everybody. I had all the cards. Rod Carew, Harmon Killebrew, Frank Robinson, Boog Powell, the Brooks Robinson.
Oh, yeah, that's from my era too.
Ray Garin. I had all these guys.
About the same age.
But they were collecting dust. Meanwhile, she had junk. But her junk wasn't collecting dust. Only my stuff was collecting dust.
Mm-hmm.
Good goobly-goo, like Grady Wilson used to say on Sanford and Son. Good goobly-goo.
Yeah.
Yeah, Grady Wilson, Shady Grady. You know what? Entertain the folks for a minute. I want to go grab a very old, unique beer mug that belonged to my grandparents.
I'll tell a couple stories.
Yeah. Tell them something. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I just mentioned my dad owned bars when I was a kid, so we had a rather unusual upbringing as kids. I spent so much time in a bar as a kid that every time the bell rang at school, I thought somebody was buying me a milk. Douche. I once got in trouble. I got sent to the principal's office for slapping my teacher on the keister. She returned my paper in a timely manner, and I was just thanking her for a prompt delivery. I even tucked $1 in her bra, and I still got in trouble. That kind of behavior always got my dad kissed on the forehead. They sent me straight to the principal's office. I used to always stay after school just so I could catch happy hour. That's how much time I spent in bars when I was a kid.
Happy hour. I'm back. Okay, now.
Back. That comedy hour is over. I've got a million of them.
Okay, this is the beer mug, the first beer mug. Okay, not sure if I'm centering it properly, but that's the first beer mug. Okay, from my grandfather. This is the unusual one that I felt was unusual because it was tall and narrow instead of short and stocky. You know. All right. I guess you could see it right there. They belong to my grandparents, and
Oh, very nice.
yeah, heavy, very heavy glass. And if I was to use them, I would just simply keep them in the freezer overnight, and then, have frosted mugs. So hopefully you can.
When I stand up again, I've got another one I'll show you.
Okay, I will. Are you ready? When you finish that.
Yeah, I'll wait. I'll wait. Do it all in one motion here.
Well, for those of you that are just coming aboard, for those of you that are just entering the room while your significant other is watching this show, this unique, uncensored, FCC-free internet talk show on beer.
The guy's not going to knock on my door, are they?
Honest Craft Beer Reviews, the group, the very unique and fast-growing, exciting group on Facebook, Honest Craft Beer Reviews and Regional Food and Drink. Go there, join them, but, you can't be a delicate person who's ultra sensitive, because we are extremely honest, and we pull no punches and we take no prisoners. So if you have the Barney the dinosaur syndrome in your head, I love you, you love me, or you're a human centipede member, okay, it's not for you. Because we don't sugarcoat anything, we don't make nice, we tell the truth, honest critiques about food and drink. In this case, this is about fine beer. There's no room for garbage beer. One time, when the beer group first started, Tom, I mentioned the most horrible beer I ever had in my life. Talk about cheap, watered down club soda tasting beer. It's a Venezuelan beer called Polar, and it has a picture of a polar bear on it.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah, I've actually seen it, yeah.
So what happened was this guy, I thought he was Latin American, but he wasn't. It turned out he was a German guy who married a Mexican woman, and he was living in Mexico. He was like yelling at me for putting down Latin beer, and I says, well, I happen to like a particular Mexican beer. It's called Negro Modelo. It's a dark beer made by the company that makes Corona. And it's not bad, but a lot of Latin American beers, even people from South America have told me, a lot of them are horrible. They're just cheaply made. They're not equal to the craft brews from Europe and Great Britain and the United States. But Asian beers are really not that bad. I mean, Qingdao from China, Kirin from Japan. I do taste the rice in it, though.
Yeah, yeah.
It has that sake flavor. You can taste when rice is used in a beer. But Indian beer is very good, by the way. I used to go to this Indian buffet for lunch, and I asked him, "What's a good Indian beer? Give me a strong one." So he gave me a lager beer. I think it was called, what the hell was it called? Superior? Or, I'm not sure, but he gave me the most popular lager from India, and it was very good. It was very good. Sometimes the beers from the third world, sometimes they end up being pretty decent. Beers from third world countries, But so you're finishing that up, and now you are going to get the second.
Okay, well, we have one more. We'll do one more and call it a day.
Yeah. Okay. We are here with Tom the Beer Whisperer for Volume 8 of Honest Craft Beer Reviews, a segment of Mega Life 21 Mayhem. And what do we... Oh, I remember that.
I talked about this one with you the other day, but I didn't have one handy, so I wanted to get it. Whenever I do a show with you, I really want to start doing local brews. I want to push my local stuff here. This is a little helper from Mother's from right here in town. 7%, 70 IBUs. And for those of you keeping score, I'm getting no kickbacks from Mother. They're not paying me or giving me free beers to say nice things about them. But they are a local brewery, and I've even given this to a few folks that live out of town. I'm that confident that this is that good of an IPA. And I want to show you the colors. This has got a beautiful kind of, a light ruby-esque color to it, I think.
Yeah, a beautiful color. It almost reminds me of Killian's Irish Red. It almost reminds me of the color of that.
We were talking about mugs earlier, and I had to get this out to show you. Because, again, we're talking about the mid-'60s. This is a mug from Dodger Stadium back in probably the mid-'60s. Sandy Koufax era.
Okay, Don Drysdale, Sandy Koufax.
Yeah. Dodgers, it says Los Angeles Dodgers on the other side, made in Japan. But anyway, number 32 was Sandy's number at the time.
Let me see
I never drink out of this mug. I don't even know if it's safe to drink out of it, to be honest with you. And if I was smart, I'd probably put it up somewhere and never look at it, but I just keep it displayed out here on my counter. I grew up in Southern California, so I'm a diehard Dodger fan.
Well, let me see the back of it, where it's the Dodger logo. Because this could be a collector's item someday, There you go. Yeah, I wonder what year did...
My wife had found some on eBay that were running about 140 apiece. I'll never sell these for the life of me because, it just means a lot to me. It's my piece of my childhood. So
if I was you, I would put it in a very safe place, so it stays in fair mint condition. The more mint condition it is, the more it'll be worth. But since it's a collector's item,
I'm not concerned about that. I'd rather have it where I can see it. I'm just not that kind of guy that puts stuff away so it'll be worth money someday.
So when did the Dodgers move from Brooklyn to Los Angeles? Was that in the 50s?
Well, I probably should know that answer, but I don't. I was born in '65. They were already there, so I've always been a Los Angeles Dodger fan.
I believe the original name of the team was the Brooklyn Trolley Dodgers. The Trolley Dodgers, because they had like San Francisco, they had trolley cars back in the day, and actually those things, they form of public transportation should come back. They're electrical powered.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. And for the first time in a long time, I might have a team.
Beautiful color on that little helper.
It is. It is a great IPA. It really is. Again, I don't want to keep harping on it. I don't want to keep saying the same thing over and over again. Craft beer geeks tend to pick darling breweries. There's a few, Bell's, Dogfish Head that everybody loves, and they're always better than everybody else. But they also always run about $15 a six-pack. Well, the truth is, I can find this in my neighborhood almost always for about $8 a six-pack. In craft beer terms, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I wouldn't pay more than that. Spending a lot of money, at a principle alone, even if you're a high income person,
well,
it's a waste.
Truth is, if you've got a difference like that, if you're talking about the difference between $8 and $15, a difference like that should be a difference in quality. But when we're talking about beer, it's not. In many cases, Lagunitas. I'm a fan of Lagunitas. Most of their beers run about $10 a six-pack in my neighborhood. But almost all of Bell's run $15. Now, Lagunitas, in my opinion, is every bit the same quality as a Bell's. Is Bell's worth $5 more? Well, for me, no. For some people, it is because they want to be able to say, I'm drinking a Bell's. Or, I'm drinking a Dogfish Head, so I'm going to pay $15, And for me, it's not. Now, there are specialty beers. People are going to take exception to what I just said. There are specialty beers like the Imperial IPA or various other Imperials that are going to be worth more money. I understand that. I'm talking about the regular session lines.
Well, look, when you look at the ingredients of beer and ale.
But for $8 a sip, I guarantee you they're putting the same money into this beer that anybody else's IPA is.
Yeah, well, just look at the ingredients.
In fact, I did a side-by-side with this once, with this in a Bell's Two Hearted. The Two Hearted's a great IPA. It runs $13 a six-pack in my neighborhood. It's good. I mean, it's fantastic. And would I drink it? Absolutely. Am I going to pay $5 more a six-pack for it? Absolutely not. And that's the point I keep trying to make is that it should be about, we should be, I understand you pay more for quality, but some of the places are charging way too much.
Of course. Well, beer is made from grains. Grains are cheap. It's like making pizza dough. You got grains, you got yeast, and you got good quality water.
Barley malt is more than rice, and it's more than corn. It's more than corn sugar and corn syrup. So I expect to pay more for a good beer than a six-pack of Bud costs. I get that, and I'm willing to do that. But
yeah,
I don't think that the folks at Bell's are putting more money into their six-pack of, Two Hearted than the folks at Mother's are putting into their little helper. That's the point of that. Is it worth $5 more? No, it's not. And I've taken some heat for saying things like that. People say, well, worth it depends on the person that buys it. Okay, maybe worth it's a bad word, but is another brewery possibly charging too much? Yeah, I think so.
Absolutely. And if a brewery normally uses mountain spring water to make its beer, all they have to do to save money is to buy a reverse osmosis water filtration system, and they could purify their municipal local tap water, and it might even taste better than the spring water, because good water is important to any beverage.
And I just noticed this. This beer, it says on the bottle that it goes great with pizza, Mexican food, Thai food, and most spicy dishes. Okay. And I like a spicy dish.
So what does that mean? If you drank it with a bland dish, you would not like the beer? Or...
Well, it is big and powerful. So yeah, it's good with something that's big and bold like the beer, basically.
In other words, if you're having oatmeal for breakfast, it's not the kind of, you don't want to wash it down with it.
It's going to coat your taste buds, and your oatmeal's going to taste like hops, which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
No, it's not.
If you want your oatmeal to taste like hops, use this instead of water. It will be just fine.
Yeah, hops. There's an old.
Never know what I'm going to say next, do you?
There's an old 50.
Guys, no filter. I just whatever pops in my head just ends up coming out, and I never know. I don't even know what I'm going to say.
Let's go drink some hops. Wasn't that an old rock song? Let's go drink some hops, yeah, baby. Let's go drink some hops. Let's go to the hops. I don't know. I forgot the words. Anyway. But anyway, there's no one out there that is as enthusiastic about high-quality craft beer as Tom, the Beer Whisperer. And he is not only is he just Tom, the Beer Whisperer, but he is also Tom, the Naked Beer Critic. He's a man that wears many hats, even though he never wears a hat. Not in front of me, but...
not that you can see.
What?
Not that you can see.
Not that I could see. Well, if you're a naked beer critic, you wouldn't be wearing...
I have a hat somewhere that you're not seeing right now.
Oh, I get it. Oh, maybe a sombrero.
Yes.
Well, you would have to be... You would have to have a pretty gigantic schlong to be walking around with a sombrero between your legs.
Well, I'm a small white Irish guy, so the odds of that are pretty slim. But
Amarillo Slim. All right, or Slim Jim. Slim Jim. Tom. Why do they call male turkeys Tom?
I don't know.
I don't know.
But it's pissing me off, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, or why does
I've called names all my life because of a damn turkey. Why is it my fault?
Yeah. Well, then again, why does Dick Cheney call himself Dick?
Well, I think that answer is obvious.
Sure. I was reading a very funny political poster about how Dick Cheney personally and his family and himself uses some aspects of Obamacare, but then again he's against it. But he uses it.
Yeah.
But he's against it if mainstream American, the little guy, wants to use Obamacare. But it's okay for the fat cats. It's okay for them to use publicly sponsored programs. You see, that's the hypocrisy. It's like welfare for the poor is terrible to Republicans, but welfare for the rich in the form of subsidies and Wall Street bailouts, oh, that's okay. So there's a lot of hypocrisy going on. But anyway, that I really dig that color, man. That little helper, that beautiful
this is a great
reddish.
beer. You know, again, without beating a dead horse, I mean, the point I'm trying to make is that all craft beers probably should, in all honesty, run about $9 to $10 a six-pack. You know, why is some 8 and some 13, or some 14, some 15? It's just ridiculous. You know, and it's because you've got this certain faction of beer geeks that want to have a particular name at a particular time. Oh, you drink that, but I only drink this. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing that bothers me. The Bell's Too Hard is a fantastic IPA. It's a great IPA.
Sure.
But it's not $5 better than this one. This one is every bit the same quality as that one. And which one do you like better, you know, comes down to personal taste. But when we're talking about beers like this, we're talking about quality. They're both the same quality. This has got fine ingredients just like that one. Now, some parts of the country, I'm going to grant that someone's going to say, well, but some areas have more taxes. Okay, I get that. So that's going to be a little more, but it shouldn't be $5 worth of difference. You know what I'm saying? It shouldn't be $5. This is a great beer. The Bell's Too Hard, most Bell's products should run about $10 in my neighborhood. Most of them run about $15. I love Bell's products, but I'm not paying $15 a six-pack because I can buy an $8 six-pack in most cases that's just as good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
but I'm not going to jump on that pretension bandwagon and say, well, but I only drink this. I'm open about it. I'm telling you, I'm going to buy the best beer I can, but I'm going to find a bargain, darn it. If brand X gives me a quality beer at a better price than brand Y, I'm going to buy it every time. And you shouldn't buy that brand Y just because somebody said you should. You know, don't be a sheep.
Yeah.
You know, have a mind. You know, think.
Be an independent free thinker with an open mind. I mean, all beer is basically primarily the same ingredients. You got yeast, you got good water, you got grains and the hops and everything. Give me a break. I mean, they're all the same. The ingredients in beer, I mean, they don't use truffles or anything expensive in the making of beer. They're all, you know, relatively inexpensive ingredients, just like making pizza dough.
Well, hops have gotten rather expensive, so that's why IPAs are typically more than any other style. But if we're talking about the same styles, you know, this is an IPA versus another IPA, they should all be about the same price.
Right. Well, they should be, and businesses should make a fair profit, you know, not rip people off. But then you have your high-income socialites that do not care about price, and they're the first ones to brag about what they spend. And they bring pretension. to craft beer, you know, and it's just a shame that they're that way. But there are people like this in all walks of life. You know, I mean, I know people that, man, when I was a personal trainer at a health club in a fancy area, they had we had people. There were women that walked in there, and they were all dressed up like they were ready to go to a nightclub. They had the spandex on. They had the makeup. They had the gold earrings and the chain and this and that. And blah blah blah. All they did was look in the mirror every 5-10 minutes, drink their mineral water or whatever, and look in the mirror to see who was watching them. You know, it wasn't about working out. These are show-offs, and the world is full of them. And you know, they need an extension. They need to overcompensate for something that's missing, and this is what we have with not only beer, with craft beer, but with food, with fine food. I mean, you have people that brag about what they spend in this gourmet fusion, you know, restaurant, some restaurant that you know, some fancy restaurant where you have a tiny portion on a big plate with a fancy swirling design of sauce that they put around it because they have to look artistic.
Yeah.
You know, just give me good food and lots of it. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I'm a big guy and I'm trying to lose some weight, so you know, maybe a portion doesn't have to be really big, but it has to be appropriate. You know, and maybe it's again, it's about more the quality than how pretty the plate looks, and I think that gets to be taken over by, you see a lot of the cooking shows today. But you do this, it makes the plate look so pretty. Yeah, you know, how about just making it taste good? You know, how about we just make it taste good? We'll worry about pretty later.
I'd rather go to a family style landmark restaurant that looks like a saloon or a barn, and have really good barbecue and big portions than to go to a fancy place with linen tablecloths and stemware and a gigantic long pepper mill. You know, as long as a telephone pole, where the waiter comes over with the Monopoly, you know, with the tuxedo, with the tails, and he's, would you like some black pepper on your fettuccine? And he's grinding this huge, longer than my shillelagh. I mean, he's grinding this. Yeah, like that. Like his arm is way up here trying to grind the pepper in your dish. Yeah. You know, and then these people go around bragging, oh, guess where me and my fiancée went to eat? Oh, we went to this 5-star restaurant that was, you know, promoted by one of the chefs from Iron Chef America. Where, you know, it's bullshit. It's total bullshit. But well, you're not overweight. You have big bones and thick skin.
No, I'm overweight, and the beer whisperer is trying to knock some down. But yeah, you know, it shouldn't always be about the portion, but it should be about the quality. The same with the beer; it's got to be about the quality.
Right. Well, that pretty much, you're almost done, and I'll wait till you finish the last drop. Again, that pretty much wraps it up for Volume 8 of Honest Craft Beer Reviews with Tom, the Beer Whisperer, and also Tom, the Naked Beer Critic. So you ladies out there in America and in the world internationally, you had a free treat, free of charge. It did not cost you anything. This is not pay-per-view. You had a free treat this time by seeing the one and only Tom, the Naked Beer Critic and Beer Whisperer, and the pleasure was all yours.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you, sir, for joining me for another
Thank you, James, for having me.
Slap-happy, action-packed, honest craft beer reviews. And knock on wood, we had no technical difficulties this time. Thank God. Little help.
Everything stayed where it was supposed to.
Yes. Yeah. More no pun intended. Everything stood.
That's funny.
That's Popeye, right? Everything stood where it was supposed to. Okay? Blow me down. Okay.
Literally.
Thank you, sir, and we will see you again. Thank you.